very few people who are doing the swim runs are looking for like the flattest course and the PR time. It's really about the experience, and like it's supposed to be challenging and uniquely challenging.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a Swimrun Podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris. And on this episode, we have the mixed team out of Boston, Massachusetts, the Boston Wet Sox. I love that name.
It is a great name. With Bronwen and Greg.
Bronwen and Greg.
Partners in life and on the swimrun course.
That's right. We met them when we were in Catalina and had a great chat with them, and we're excited to bring you their story later in the show. But first,
we're still in shelter-in-place training.
That's right.
So, similar to everyone else, we've been doing what we can, and I feel that we've been kind of glossing over this just because everyone's doing the same thing, I feel, and it feels a little uninspiring, so we're not harping on this.
I mean, if you're following us on Instagram, which you should if you're not.
The Low Tide Boyz with the Z on Instagram.
If you like some fire memes and stuff like that, we're obviously missing the pool, and that's kind of where I've been venting a lot of my grumpiness about not being able to properly train.
And it's also nice. Like today, it was 72, and all I could think about was, it'd be so great during lunch to get some sun on my shoulders in the water and do some flip turns and all this stuff.
Why are you doing that to yourself?
About it. Fantasizing about it.
Then you're like hanging yourself by your tether in the bathroom. I've been doing a lot of I've been doing a lot of cycling for this.
You have.
So last week, I think I put in about 80 miles. This week I went over 100, and just been putting in major volume. Like I haven't put in this much volume in terms of just hours. Definitely pre-children.
Yeah, like more in the triathlon, half Ironman.
Yeah,
training blocks.
Any conference call or anything like that, I'm jumping on the bike. So 40 minutes here,
just
hour power. Yeah, I mean it's been great, and I feel like this is probably TMI, but my taint is kind of coming back to cycling shape.
Your cycling parts are becoming better. I got a new bike actually. I'm sitting right next to it because we're in my garage. We have the 6-foot table, and we're sitting at least a foot back from it. So there's 8 feet of space between Chris and I. It's pretty funny. Check the Instagram stories for an account a reenactment. I got a dad bike by Rad Power Bikes. It's an e-cargo bike. So it has a battery and it's an electric bike, but it also has this extended kind of fender thing where I can sit both my kids on it and ride around.
It's pretty cool.
It's been a blast.
It's pretty cool. It's bright orange.
And it's only T-minus 8 months or less until Chris gets one. That's my guess.
I'm trying not to get one.
I think that you might. All right, time for shout-outs, Chris. Who do we have on this week's shout-out?
Anyway, on this week's shout-outs, we have Trista Menon of her Instagram account is _Trista. And she's been a follower of the show, giving us some really great feedback for the show. So we just wanted to give her a shout-out and thank her for being a listener and for helping us grow the show in a good way.
Yeah, and we wanted to kind of put the challenge out there, and we, if you have any feedback about episodes or things that you want to see or don't, feel free to just drop that to us at the lowtideboys@gmail.com. And we sort of wanted to put a challenge out about share the podcast, the Low Tide Boyz, with somebody that has no idea about swimrun, that maybe you're thinking, hey, the person is probably on the edge. I think I can convince them. Send them the Low Tide Boyz, either the meme account, the Instagram account, or the podcast, or better yet, both.
Yes,
that's our challenge to you.
And you can tailor this to your audience. So if you got like a 12-year-old or someone who really is going to be looking for a funny story, send them the episode 12 or Better Tethered Together article. If you have someone who's more serious, more type A, episode 2 with Michael Olzinski as a coach, or episode 14 with Nicholas Ramirez. Hey, there's something for everybody.
Yeah, and we're looking at getting more kind of potential quarantine workout folks on to help with that. But anyway, time for the Boston Wet Sox.
This is a great interview. Really enjoyed chatting with them, and we think you're going to enjoy this tremendously.
Tremendously.
It's
been said, and it's been done.
It's technically been, it's been done.
Oh, it has been done.
But for our listeners, it's
been said.
Here you go.
Enjoy. Boston Wet Sox.
Go Boston.
Greg, Bronwen.
Okay. All right. So today we're chatting with the mixed team, the Boston Wet Sox. Love that name. Bronwen and Greg are a married couple living in Boston. They have a 4-year-old daughter, Gwen. They grew up on opposite coasts, but met when they were at college at BU when they were both on the swim team. I should say Boston University. I'm from Boston, so whenever I see Boston University, instantly it's just BU. It's like that's all it means to me. So they've been competing in swimrun events since the first Casco Bay Island swim run in 2016, and their race resume is pretty stacked. They've had a couple trips to the Attila World Championships. They've done World Series races in the Isle of Scilly, which our last week's guest said that was his favorite course. Nicholas was saying that was his favorite course. And of course, they raced in Catalina earlier this year, or it feels like 10 years ago, but it was a month. It was like a month and a half ago. It's crazy. And they've done a lot of races in North America, North Carolina, Virginia, Maine, and Massachusetts. Obviously, just like for a lot of us, their most recent challenge involves attempting to try to be more than mediocre employees, athletes, and parents inside of 940 square foot apartment during quarantine. So that's pretty, that's tough. We met them in Catalina, what feels like 3 years ago. And I remember telling Chipper that I wanted them on the show. So I'm really stoked that they're here. But before we get to that, at Catalina, they placed third in the mixed division, and it's earned a slot for this year's World Championship. So welcome to the show, Bronwen and Greg. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
We're happy to be here.
So I guess the first question is, how are you guys doing? Quarantine life, Corona life. Everybody okay in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's healthy. It's obviously it's a tough situation. I know it's tough for everybody, and we have the benefit of 2 paychecks still coming in. So it's definitely all more problems of dealing with working and watching a daughter and trying to do both things well, and not the big worries that a lot of people are dealing with. But it's definitely still a little hard.
Yep. I mean, we're both doing that, Chipper and I, trying to balance all that. So.
Yeah, it's kind of all of a sudden you notice training isn't the most important thing anymore, or it's not in your top priority. It's like, okay, we still gotta work, gotta be a parent, and okay, yeah, maybe I can sneak out for a run or a ride or something like that. But
the runs are starting to be kind of like the daily escape. We've been trying to go on a run around lunchtime to sort of separate ourselves from work and get the family outside. We're still pretty lucky in that we're not actually under a strict quarantine. We're still allowed to go outside more or less as we want.
But all your pools and stuff are closed, I would imagine. Gyms and everything.
Yeah, for maybe since the weekend after Catalina, I think they've been closed. So yeah, it's been a little while. We've attempted a little bit of outdoor swimming, but it was rough.
Yeah. Water temps like in the mid 40s. It was pretty chilly.
Yeah,
just wait for the pool to open back up.
Yeah,
you two are our first mixed team that we've had, and I feel that it's pretty unique that you also are partners.
Life partners
as well as race partners. So I'm super curious to hear like the origin story of this, and as Chris always says, I feel like I'm taking his line now, but like, how did you first hear about Swimrun? I'm guessing it's probably from Jeff Cole, Casco Bay, something potentially. And then how did you figure like, oh, we should be partners and do this crazy adventure together? Tell us that story.
Yeah, so we knew Jeff Cole from, we did his White Mountains triathlon. I think the inaugural year in 2013, I want to say.
Yeah.
So we knew him from that. And we got an email about how they were going to have this race, this Casco Bay Islands race. And we had vaguely heard about Swimrun, I think probably from Slow Twitch.
Yeah, I'm sure one of Herbert's articles or something like that.
Yeah. And so we saw that and had seen all the pictures from that and just thought like, that is awesome. Like that is such an epic race. if we ever get a chance to kind of do something like that, we definitely need to sign up for it. And I think when we got the email about the Casco Bay race, we had like a 3-day-old daughter at that time. So Greg spent like, I'm sure it's sleep deprivation, but it took him like a solid hour to put together like our race resume in order to send it over to them, because it was by selection at that point.
That's right. I forgot that it was like that you had to prove that you could swim. Like you had to have done an Ironman swim or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you would put Vine Man 70.3. I did 28 minutes on the swim or whatever. Yeah, I do remember that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's funny. I sent the resume in, and we were all worried because we didn't know like what level of athlete they were expecting. And within 30 minutes, Jeff Cole bounced an email back that was like, "Oh, I'm excited to see you guys signed up." So
nice.
I think we're a little lucky there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like right off the bat you knew that. Have you two done adventure races before, or you break that down for us? Because it sounds right off the bat that you two assumed you were going to be each other's partner.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever any other idea, really.
Yeah, you just twisted my arm into it. I didn't have the opportunity to suggest otherwise.
Happy wife, happy life.
We both thought that, we've been swimmers, basically lifelong swimmers, and we really enjoy running. We've been doing marathons for a while, and so it was just kind of natural. I don't think there was ever like an explicit discussion about like, oh, should we try and find other partners? It sort of just felt obvious to us, I guess.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing was who's going to come and watch Gwen.
Yeah.
That was kind of leading into my next question about, on the weekends, and you want to do your big run, but someone has to watch the kid, and you need to do a swim run practice. How do you kind of finagle this situation? Yeah,
so I mean, we live together, obviously. We don't train together very often. Really almost never. I think before Isles of Scilly last year, we got one tethered swim in together beforehand. So we really train on our own. We in the summer we'll go a lot to Walden Pond, and we trade off. So Walden Pond's like 18 miles away. One of us will run up there. We trade off swimming and trail running for a little while, and then the other one will run back. It's just trading off.
Right. And Walden Pond, for people who don't know, is kind of a famous place. It's where Henry Thoreau wrote on Walden Pond.
Yep.
He lived in a cabin and isolated himself from society and wrote this awesome book. So anyway.
Oh,
sorry.
I'll put that one on my Kindle.
Yeah, there you go.
Never actually read the book.
No, I've never read on Walden Pond.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I think they made me read it when I was in high school in Massachusetts. So I have a question. So going into your first swimrun event, what kind of research did you do? Did you do any specific training, or you guys were like, hey, we're super fit. We've been running marathons and swimming's the easy part for us. Let's just show up, see what happens. Or did you kind of go OCD on it and super type A triathlete on it?
No, we're not. I mean, so we always enjoy doing triathlons. Obviously enjoy swim runs way better. But we're not type A people.
I hope nobody describes this as a type A triathlete.
Oh, yeah. We're definitely not type A people though. And especially for this race, I would say, so our daughter was 7 months old by the time we did this race. So I was really getting back in shape.
Jeez.
It really impressive. Was. I think we tethered together for one swim before we did this, and decided actually not to tether during the race because it was so uncomfortable. So I mean, really not a lot of research and not a lot of practice. We cut off wetsuits.
I mean, you guys have talked a lot about equipment and stuff, but I thought that was really cool about the first one. We basically went in with old running shoes that were pretty worn out, and cut off wetsuits, and pull buoys that we had made with some shoelaces and
nice.
I love it.
Screwdrivers, and it was great. We had
you
a
went
great time.
Full MacGyver on it. Full MacGyver.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Besides
awesome.
the hand paddles, I think we did everything. Yeah.
And then after that first race, or during the first race, when did you sort of catch the swim run bug?
Well, we really enjoyed the first race. I think we wanted to come back and improve on our time in 2017 would have been the second year we did it. But up until that point, we had only done Casco Bay. And then after the 2017 race, Jeff Cole had connected us with Mats and Michael of Attilo. And so we got into the 2018 World Championships as a director selection.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So, yeah. So I think the World Championships was I believe our fourth race.
I think so, yeah.
And I'd say that's when we caught the bug. I just remember sitting at that award ceremony, after coming into the finish line, seeing everybody else there, like, getting a hug from Michael and watching the award ceremony and just being like, wow, like we need to figure out how we're going to get back here. We need to do more of these races. These are just absolutely amazing. And I think at that point we sort of pivoted from like focusing on triathlons with swim run on the side to being, primarily focused on swim runs and triathlon just sort of.
So, so I'd love to get into you guys' head a little bit. So yeah, World Championship, obviously there's a lot of mystique there. How did you train for it? What happened during the race? Like, kind of give us like what the water tastes like. Just give us the whole thing on like what that first experience was doing like the Attila, basically your first like Attila race was like the big dance.
Yeah. It was, yeah. So Greg has a way of, he viewed the course extensively, and I looked at it too, but so like looking at Google Maps, looking at everything, and it's now a running joke with us that every single World Series race we do, he says, how technical could it really be? Like, Jesus Christ, Greg, at this point you need to stop saying that. Like, it's very technical. And so we had done trail running, we had done long runs, we had done a lot of swimming. I don't think anything can prepare you for like probably the first 7 miles of the run. It's like straight up rocks. Like you guys did Casco Bay. It's like Vale Island.
Oh yeah.
Just for like 7 miles.
That was Teamwork Island, Chipper, where we like held hands a little bit and you pushed me in the butt to get me over the boulder.
Yeah.
I already forgot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was. Yeah, and honestly, like that island, that's where I was just like, this is the craziest shit I've ever done.
Oh, at Casco Bay.
Yeah, at Casco Bay.
Okay, I was thinking Catalina. Yeah, it's like a half. I remember riding on my paddle. I'm like, half mile, we'll blow through this, and then we got there, and I'm like, I think we're just gonna be like walking across this very, very scaredly because you're lots of moss.
It's like just try to not break something.
Yeah. I do remember that.
I think the second year at Casco Bay, we contemplated just swimming around the island instead of actually running on it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it was, the running is so slow.
Yeah. But yeah, the World Championships is very technical. Isabella and Elena were talking about how the trails weren't technical enough at Catalina for them. And I can understand why. Watching those two float over the rocks, like that's clearly their strong point. And, so as far as like race specific training, we kind of knew that it would be hard. And so we were trying to do trail runs, but running on single track is really not representative of the race course. I mean, you're really like kind of bushwhacking it at some points. The only reason there's a trail there is because 50 teams have sort of tramped it down for you.
Wow.
Before we went through.
And I guess people that live in that area in Sweden have that sort of in their backyard, that they have the just the same as over here. We can run up Mount Tam all the time and have these crazy, beautiful views in the headlands. Right. They get the same deal over there, but with super technical trails and
right. And going back to Catalina, that's where I think our strength was just bombing down fire roads. So that suited us, but for a lot of the European teams, they're like, what is this? It's like you're just running straight down. What? This is crazy.
Yeah, also did not suit us. Throw that one out there.
I mean, we were paying for it. Don't get us wrong. It's not like we were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So you sounded like qualifying for the World Champions became sort of your focus as you shifted from being primarily triathletes to being primarily swim runners, and I feel that that's a very accurate depiction of what Chris and I have done. I think having kids is a big part of it as well for us, and I'm curious, how did having your daughter Gwen kind of play into that, I guess, morphing of triathlete to swim runner?
So I think for my part, that was definitely part of it, because biking just takes so much longer to do. Like you can just go out for a run I mean, swimming can be kind of annoying because like you have to have the pool hours and whatever, but yeah, biking just takes a long time. And I definitely felt like that was the first thing to kind of go, was the time for the bike training. Greg had been working about 15 miles away from home, so he would do a lot of biking to and from work. But so he would still get in the biking, but it was severely lacking in mine. So that definitely helped the transformation.
Yeah, being able to sort of get up in the mornings and go to the pool or go on a run was much more feasible than a 5-hour bike ride on the weekend. And if we had tried to do that, and we like Bronwen was saying, we basically stagger our workouts. So instead of doing them in parallel and starting at 9 and finishing at 1, we're basically starting at 9 and finishing around 5. If we were doing that, that's not gonna work out.
Right, because one of you has to be home. So when whoever finishes first, then the second person goes out. So very complex thing there. So it sounded like you built your season. I'm trying to keep the date straight. Your 2018 season around qualifying for the World Championship. Is that correct?
No, it's actually 2019. So because 2019 we had decided basically right after the World Championships in 2018 that we were going to try and do a World Series race. And so we picked Silly. And my parents very kindly agreed to go with us.
Nice.
Bring Gwen with us. And so that we had that was basically it. We decided like if we get a slot there, we'll definitely go. And if we don't, that's it. That was our shot. And so we luckily got a slot there.
Yeah, it was a cool trip. And we flew over there, over to London, and we spent a few days in London, and then took a train and a ferry out to the island. And the islands out there are absolutely gorgeous. Like Nicholas was saying, I mean, it's like a tropical island plopped off the coast of England. So that was a really fun race. And yeah, I mean, we were only able to do it because we dragged Bronwen's parents along with us to watch Gwen. So that was really, super helpful. That's basically what we do at all the races is coerce a family member into watching our daughter for us.
Totally.
Hasn't been that hard yet.
That's a good plan.
It's like, would you like to go to Catalina? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. My dad saw pictures of Catalina and he was like, does it really look like that? I was like, yes, it does. Do you want to come next year? So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, our spouses are like, so we're going next year, right? I'm like, yep, everybody's going.
Everyone's going.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Awesome. I'm curious a little bit about, there's very few pure American teams that qualify or even get to race in the World Championships. I feel like it's 4 to 6 teams. Tell me a little bit about how that kind of felt being, maybe not pressure of a spotlight or anything, but being kind of the representation from the States over at such a marquee event for the sport.
There was definitely not a spotlight. The Swedes mostly and the Europeans, they really have this on lockdown at this point. They're extremely fast. So, I mean, it was cool to be able to sort of like represent the U.S. and be out there. And we were very happy with our performance as far as, North Americans go. I think we did pretty well. And we also, we've become pretty good friends with Lars Finanger and John Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
And 2018, they were out there as well.
John was out there.
John was out there. So yeah, I mean, we've been able to make friends, with sort of like the North American swim runners by going to these. But I think that's one of the things that excited us most actually about Catalina, the shift for Attilo to start, bringing a race to North America is that would mean that there's more Americans at the World Championships. And so having Caroline and Kelsey come and Greg, and I can't remember his partner, that'll be basically, doubling the number of American teams that are going to be. Amber and Aaron.
Yep, Amber and Aaron.
So that'll be great.
Dark horse, our sleeper picks.
On our Swimrun fantasy pool there. Awesome. And then you did Catalina obviously, and that was had a great performance there. How did you? What's your quick and dirty on that race? Anything fun or any memorable stories or anything?
That was honestly one of the toughest races physically that we've gone through. I don't know why. It just it was a gorgeous course. Lots of great swimming for us, especially lots of like back half swimming, which is definitely what we're good at. But yeah, I was suffering. I think a lot about it because of the downhills. Like we trained a lot of uphills. We trained as many hills as we can, but I mean we're East Coast. They don't have hills like that out here. So even in retrospect, like I don't know how we would have trained for the downhills. So yeah, I suffered a lot on that course.
Yeah, and the way they kind of laid it out was almost cruel because you blasted the quads on the first run leg, and then so your quads are blasted for the remaining 5-6 hours or 7 hours in our case. But yeah, they really did that. They really did that dirty.
So I mean, so it's interesting.
You're absolutely right. I think it's like every time we're out there, you know, I'm cursing Mats and Michael for this course that they put together, but I think it's great that they're definitely not like playing down the difficulty of these World Series courses. Every single one of them is, painfully difficult to get through and
uniquely challenging.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's something that sets them apart from triathlon. I hope it continues that way.
And yeah, I mean, we've talked about that point a lot too, and I think that's something that takes some people by surprise for sure. That I've done an Ironman, I've done a couple half Ironmans or whatever. Oh, the long one, yeah, of course I'm going to do the long one. And then they get out there and they're like, oh, maybe this isn't quite the same thing as what I thought, and they get caught off guard a little bit for sure. I feel that happened to a significant amount of teams.
Well, I mean, there was a team that we chatted with before the race at Catalina, the Iron Cowboy, James and his partner, I'm forgetting his name, Shane. Yeah. Maybe Shane or something. We saw him at the little supermarket, and they're like, so how do you guys do the tether? And we were just trying to help him out, and saw him on the race course. And I mean, that guy's a stout athlete. I don't think but the finish line, he was done. He was done. Yeah, he was definitely done. I mean, as were we. So
it's different, right? I mean, it's not to say that like Ironman is easy. It's just a different kind
for sure.
Part.
Yeah.
For sure, and I think it's the totality of all the legs added up and the swimming, and swimming 800 or 1200 doesn't seem difficult in itself, but after the sixth time that you've done it, after running all this and all this stuff, so it keeps at least in my eyes like the sport super interesting because you've done a lot of East Coast races, like North Carolina looks so awesome. And I want to hear you guys talk about that race for sure. But I love how every race is just something's different about it.
Yeah, and I think so. The analogy that I like to use is kind of like how Wildflower. You could only compare Wildflower to Wildflower. So if you're Wildflower Triathlon, if you did the long course and your time was 5 hours, like that's not your PR 70.3. That's just for that course because that course is so crazy. It seems like every swim run event has sort of that same quality to it where you can come back and try to better it next year, but doing a different race in a different island somewhere isn't going to be the same experience.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what we really love about this. Like nobody who's doing this, or very few people who are doing the swim runs, are looking for like the flattest course and the PR time. It's really about the experience, and it's supposed to be challenging and uniquely challenging in each of these different places. Like each of the races that we've done has been stunningly different courses, different run distances, different swim distances, different terrain, and that's one of the reasons I think it's just so interesting and so much more fun.
It'll be interesting to see if they're sort of like, over the next 10 years, if specialists sort of emerge, teams that are especially good at the swim heavy races, like Casco Bay, I think has some of the most swimming versus like Thousand Lakes is sort of like a flat, fast run course, I believe.
The Orcas Island doesn't have a ton of swimming. I want to say 3K total, but that one's like crazy 5,000-6,000 feet of elevation gain on the run.
Right.
We should be doing that one later this year.
We'll see you there.
Hopefully. Everybody knock on something.
Hopefully, I know. That's why I said we should be. We're signed up for it.
Nice.
We're definitely hoping that one happens.
Yeah. What else do you have on the calendars this year?
So we're planning on Casco Bay at the beginning of August, the World Championships at the end of August.
Yep.
Nice.
We're signed up for Orcas in, is that October or end of September?
End of September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're, I'd say we're probably going to do North Carolina again.
We're trying to
in October. And then November, I think we'd like to squeeze one in. There's the one in Austin that Lars is putting on with Odyssey. But now that VAR has been moved to November, we're kind of thinking about that's actually our anniversary weekend.
Yeah, so our 10th anniversary.
Congratulations. Yeah, and for swimmers, that's a great course because you got that super crazy long swim.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
That'd
be really cool. I mean, Lars can do his own plugging on the show whenever he wants, but the Austin race, the terrain in the Austin Hill Country, it's really cool. I've done a lot of running out there. Never jumped into the water and then ran after and then jumped back into the water and do that on repeat. But that's going to be a really cool course. Probably super different than anything. I guess maybe close to Catalina in the sense there'll be cacti and random stuff.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know there were cacti in Austin.
Yeah, well, in the hill country, which is north, there's just everything.
And so you two have been in the sport for now going on 4 or 5 years now. So you've seen it grow from it was just the one Casco Bay race and maybe a handful of other smaller races to now the first Otelo North America race in 4 years. I'm curious, what do both of you think will kind of help the sport of swim run grow in the United States to where, when we're chatting with you in 12 months, there's 3 Otelo races and 15 more local ones that pop up, and you're kind of getting this growth explosion. What will be some of those factors in your mind?
I think some of it is probably like finding the right people that want to do these races. Obviously triathlon's going to have probably have the most people coming from it. But swimmers too, finding people from swimming, because I feel like that's generally the barrier to entry into these sorts of things, is that you don't feel as comfortable swimming.
Mm-hmm.
And people being able to find partners. Like I know you guys have talked about this in the past too. It's a partner sport. It's super fun. It's a partner sport. Even though they do have the solo races. People being able to match up with good people.
I think drawing people into it, at least getting them to try, if they try this sport once, I think a lot of people will find that it's a lot of fun. And I hope that the barriers to entry are low. I hope people don't think that they have to, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want it to turn into triathlon mindset where you have to go out and buy the most expensive bike and these expensive helmets. Like, just try it with a cutoff wetsuit or rent an ARC wetsuit and throw on some old shoes and give it a try. I think the other thing that's really important, and I think Mats and Michael have demonstrated this, is that it's really, having passionate race directors is a huge benefit. People like Herbert Krabel and Lars Fnanger, who just pour tons of time and sweat into developing these races and really making them representative of the location that they take place in. I think that's a really unique aspect of swimrun as well, that I think sort of draws people in.
Yeah, and I think more so than any other sport or any other quote unquote mainstream sport that we have in the States is this real deep sort of relationship with nature that they're bringing out about how you just move through it, and it's not, oh yeah, you're just riding your bike as fast as you can go on the road and then turn around and ride back and then run out. And you're in nature and you're moving through it. And if you can't go straight, then you do got to go around. Like you mentioned, you could swim around the Vail Island if you wanted to, or hey, in the morning there might be the sandbar, or if the tide's in, then there won't be, and you kind of have to swim over this. So I think that part is, for me personally, I wasn't super I wasn't thinking that would have a really big pull on me, but having done more and more swim runs, it really is starting to pull on me more about just how cool that is and how unique of an experience.
Yeah, well, speaking of Casco Bay, I remember before that race, I was doing a lot of open water swimming in San Francisco, and I remember just kicking myself after the race for not having studied the currents, because I feel like we were just kind of swimming in the dark for a lot of it. Like the taste of the water was changing, the temperature was changing. It was really like, I just feel like afterwards I was like, man, I should have taken this like way more seriously in terms of just knowing the distance, but actually trying to understand a little bit what the swimming across the Portland Sound might be like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not my job to focus on that. I put my head down.
Greg's job.
Yeah, Greg is supposed to sight and figure out where I'm going.
So
I pay attention to the cord in front of my eyes.
All right, so you guys are the first mixed teams that we've had on. So why don't you tell us a little bit? Let's go into like the happy partner relationship piece. So how do you guys? You already mentioned a little bit how you divide labor in terms of prepping for races and things like that. But how do you handle conflict in a race? How do you guys deal with adversity? All that stuff. Have you come up with any strategies that you think have some sort of universal applicability to other teams out there?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, we don't. It's not like we've had a lot of discussions about our strategy, but I think sort of the thing that we found that works is that having a partner, throughout the course of the race, you're going to have high points and you have low points. But the nice thing about having a partner is that it's usually not at the same time as your partner. So,
or hopefully not at the same time.
Yeah.
You might be at a particularly low point in your race, and it's sort of up to your partner to like kind of recognize that and do what it takes to kind of turn it around. If that's like pulling a little harder on the cord, or if it's just providing encouragement.
Soft encouragement, not annoying encouragement.
That's right. Sometimes it can be like threading a needle.
Yeah.
Encouraging somebody to eat sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. Was it the first Casco we did? Bronwen kind of bonked towards the end of the race, and I remember being like, "Oh, she's clearly bonking. Like, here, have this gel." She's like, "No, I'm not going to take this gel." So eventually, I had to just stop and be like, "I'm not going until you eat this." I think about 5 minutes after that, she's like, "Oh, I was really hungry. That worked out well."
I would never admit to that. I wasn't hungry.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
That's
but I
good.
think a lot of it too is just, so I mean, it's all the same things that so I find it kind of strange sometimes that people are like, I don't know how you would race like with your husband, we would kill each other, and I think that is a little silly sometimes, because like all the same things that make like a good partner in swim run usually make a good partner in swim run too.
And in life.
You mean in life?
Yeah, partner like in life, make a good partner in swim run. Simply because like you have to know how to communicate with each other. You have to be good at like not having horrible things coming out of your mouth that you don't mean in times of stress. And talking rationally and figuring out like what you both need at that time, and sometimes just not talking.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good points. Your actual race strategy, is there anything in particular that is Bronwen the fish that she leads out all the swims, or how is it divvied up, or is it just kind of based on how everyone's feeling for that day? You two seem pretty equally matched in both disciplines.
So Greg's a much faster swimmer and a much faster runner. But so I generally have more endurance than he does, I would say. So I can kind of keep going at the same pace for longer. So a lot of it is we figured out that we stay tethered for as long as possible. So like I think it was Catalina, I believe, for the first run we couldn't tether, and at the World Championships you can't tether for the first run. But basically other than that, we stayed tethered the whole time. And so he leads on all the swims. And I forget who it was, but they were saying that like you get cold if you're the one that's following in the swims because you're like not working. Not the case at all. Don't tell him that. That's not
true. You were adamant about clarifying.
I'm working my ass off hilarious. Back there. It's just we're not like, we're well matched in the sense that like we work well together, but yeah, he's definitely faster than I am.
So when you said that you guys stayed tethered together for as long as possible, at some point you're like on on the 10th leg of the run, you're like, fuck this.
Yeah,
I'm
see you
untethered.
later.
I think that was the one snappy moment actually that Greg had at the World Championships last year. We were on like the long run.
After
and
the pig swim?
I let the tether go a little slack, and he's like, either pick it up or take it off, but do not let it hit my ankle again. So that was like, all right, we need to calm down now for a little bit. But that was his one snippy moment, 9.5 hours of racing. So
hey, you know what?
Yeah, that's not too bad.
That's not even that
nope.
bad.
Yeah, we generally leave. I mean, we don't take the tether off at any part of the race as part of the strategy. I mean, the goal is to leave it on. So when we're running, I just try and put enough tension on it to sort of know where Bronwen is behind me. And then when we're swimming, my goal is to pull as hard as I can and sight and Bronwen follow. So the tether it's a huge part of our strategy. I know that that's not necessarily the case for like Fanny and Desiree, for instance, but yeah, I mean, and I think that's kind of how other mixed teams operate as well, but I'm not too sure. Actually, I've never had that conversation with any mixed teams.
Yeah,
ask them that.
It's just another like really interesting layer to Swimrun about that. Even a women's only team or a men's only team is going to have a different strategy that a mixed team would potentially, or vice versa. Like it, I don't know. The more I know about this sport, the more the more I enjoy it.
Yeah. Just keep preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, totally.
Everyone who's listening to the show is like
yeah,
the choir.
we know this already.
It's like, yeah, we think it's cool.
Cool. Any particular gear or nutrition or anything that you found has worked really well for you? Or I know we haven't really had a gear chat too often, but we have a both men and women's represented here. So if there was one piece of gear you can't go without, I guess maybe I'll make that my question.
We use kind of the basic kit. We have we've been racing the ARC Unos for about a year now.
Great pronunciation, Greg. That was awesome.
We have we just use like the stroke maker, classic hand paddles. That's like the swimmers in us. I think every swimmer has a set of those. And as far as pull buoys, we have been using just old Speedo buoys that we have that I put bungee cords in, but we actually got we have keels in the back of our closet that I bought like a week after Catalina, and I've been meaning to try that out.
That's gonna change your life.
Though, and
it'll change your life though.
Yeah,
change your life.
Yeah,
so I seriously think that would be like down past my knees if I tried to use it.
Just be careful when you put it between your legs for the first time if you're in the water, because it'll send you ass over tea kettle or whatever the expression is if you're not.
I mean, I'm not like I'm 5 feet tall. I'm not tiny, but like that thing is big.
Yeah.
A lot of buoyancy. Oh my God, you guys are gonna be so much faster. Seriously, like the difference between just a regular pool buoy and something with that much buoyancy is pretty profound. Yeah,
we're hoping to. I mean, we're wearing like such thick wetsuits when we're swimming at Walden Pond the past couple weekends that I feel like adding another. I'd be surfing on it at that point.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
Once it gets warmer, we'll be testing those out as well.
When we chatted with Andy Hewitt a few weeks back, he mentioned how far ahead the European and the Swedes were, the European racers and the Swedes were when they went over their race. He's like, oh, so you do wear pull buoys. Okay, we'll bring that for the next race, or you do use the tether. Okay, that's interesting. So I was just wondering if there was any of those from after racing, and you've done a couple of slow races in Europe, if you had any nuggets from the the OG Swedes.
Yeah, basically what he's asking is so that we don't look like stupid Americans.
I mean, so for us, I really think part of it was like, especially for the World Championship course, is tethering. Like when we first started, like the first race we ever did, we didn't tether at all, which I mean was a mistake because like Greg kept on having to like look back for me in the swims. I was working my ass off trying to keep up with him. And then like when we first went to the World Championships, we would untether for every single run. And they were like, 40 5 transitions or something like that.
Yeah.
There are tons of transitions. So that's a lot of time for each swim to like
even if you
clip
did
out, do whatever.
minute.
So after that one, we decided that was looking at other people, especially all the mixed teams that would stay tethered. That was definitely one of the big takeaways, I think. The second was rock running. I freaking need to learn how to run on rocks. Like, so Greg was talking about Helen and Isabel, they finished like a minute behind us at the World Championships last year. And our claim to fame is that they, like, any picture of them, our feet are in it because they like crossed the finish line in, I don't like a horse pose.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
Right.
But so it was very prominent on the videos, and our feet are in all those videos.
That's hilarious.
But they were, Greg mentioned this before, they're so fast on the rocks. Like any sort of not super technical running, or the swimming, like we would go ahead of them. But then those rocks, they kill it.
I guess it's just a confidence thing, and they have hours and hours and hours of experience.
I mean, if that's your backyard.
So good. I don't know what it is.
No.
Yeah, I think it's we talked about like how each course is different and how it's an advantage to be able to work out, to have that type of terrain in your backyard. And I think that they just have that, they have that advantage. And so they rightfully, take advantage of it. As far as, as far as like what the Europeans do to be faster, I don't know that it's the equipment they use. I think, they just have access sort of to the courses and they test it out, and they have the opportunity to race a little bit more often, which I think helps.
It's experience too, not necessarily experience, courses experience with like swimming and then running and then swimming and then running, and it's going to be very different than just like your standalone workouts and
totally.
Yeah,
it's like after you do your first triathlon, you're like, okay, the next race, I know 15 things I'm going to do differently because because you just learned them all. So I think that's how a lot of people are kind of coming up in swim runs. So.
Yeah, it's like my first sprint triathlon. I spent like a minute trying to put on socks in transition, and it cost me like a podium spot. And all my friends were like, wait, you tried to put on socks? I'm like, no one told me not to worry about the socks. I'm thinking blisters.
I told them.
I'm thinking safety.
Yeah, no blisters. Actually, no blisters is good, though.
It's right. Greg's dad in his first sprint triathlon put cycling gloves on in transition. So.
Oh, wow, that's nice. That's a good one. I love. That's awesome.
I'm sure you look cool though.
Listen to podcast, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He's famous now. He's Low Tide. Low Tide Boyz famous.
Low Tide Boyz famous.
Awesome. So it sounds like you're making by pretty much like the rest of us are, but you have a pretty stacked fall, fingers crossed, race schedule.
Hope so much, yes.
I think everyone's going to be chomping at the bit to get out there for those late races. And yeah, I think we're definitely going to have Herb on to talk about the North Carolina, because we've been eyeing that one for a while and are super curious about kind of one of the original swim run races. Is that one that you guys do every year?
No, we actually did it for the first time last year. And it was absolutely amazing. So it was one of those races it's one of the ones that isn't very swim heavy, which obviously isn't going to favor us very much, but obviously like we want to do new courses, try new things. And it was absolutely gorgeous. Like you basically kind of charge up a mountain, swim in a lake, go further up a mountain, and then come down, swim in a lake again. It was.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's totally my type of course. I think I'd enjoy that.
Does sound fun.
And you're swimming in like lakes and rivers, right?
Yeah, it's you swim through. Yeah, you sort of start, like Bronwen said, you sort of start at the bottom of the mountain, and then you swim through this lake a few times. That's about halfway up the mountain. And then the finish is basically a swim into I think it's the Green Heron Ale House, down the Dan River. So that's kind of nice. You get sort of a leisurely swim down the river to finish it off.
Nice float. Nice river float.
Basically, yeah. Well, you have to watch out for the rocks underneath you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But the run up of the mountain is pretty tough. It's a big mountain to run up. So.
Yeah.
That was
cool.
hard. But yeah, that was a great race. Really enjoyed that one, and it's a great time of year too. The fall colors were really starting to pop when we were there. So nice. You're running through these forests with kind of like these mossy trails under you and orange and yellow leaves falling down. It was quite pretty.
That sounds amazing.
I'm jealous.
I would like to go do that race.
All this sounds so good. I'm
it's like Chipper, can we go do that race?
Yeah, sure. We can
as my partner.
We can do it.
So I guess last question. I'm sure we were just talking about how each race is unique, but which one would you say has been sort of your favorite race experience that you guys have done together so far?
I think probably Casco Bay last year was the best race we've ever had.
Yeah, I think Casco Bay. We just keep going back to that one. Obviously, it's a race that's Portland is 2 hours from us, so we go up there in the summer to train on the course. It's a super fun race. We enjoy doing it every year.
Lots of swimming.
Lots of swimming, which we like.
Yeah. We found that out the hard way.
Yeah. And so I think just the combination of like the hometown race, it's a course we like, and I think it's actually pretty similar, I guess, in spirit to like the World Championships, in that it's really an island to island race, and not quite as many trails as they achieve in the World Championship, but kind of I guess true to the founding race,
principles,
so to speak.
And I think Michael and Motts would describe it the same way. It's like the first American race that was really in the European style or in the Ottawa style.
I mean, I think it would be a great race for Europeans to come to as well. I mean, Boston is easy to get to from Europe, and it's not too far to Portland, and it's good tune-up for World Championships.
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks before World Championships the past 2 years for us. So it's been kind of the perfect, remember, you need to eat more than you think you need to. And it's a great race sort of thing.
Did you guys also do, I guess they only did it last year. Was it last year, early this year?
Yeah,
I don't know. The Boston
Boston
Harbor
Islands.
Did you guys do that one?
Yeah, we did that race. That heavily favored us.
Yeah. Because it's just like, it's like 80% swimming.
Over half the time was spent swimming.
Wow.
Yeah.
The first swim, I think, was supposed to be 1,600 meters, which should have taken around 20 minutes for most people and for the faster swimmers. And I think we came out like 45 minutes after we went in, and John Stevens is sitting on the shore there, and he's like, "We thought you guys would be here like 20 minutes ago. Where have you been?"
You're like, us too.
Yeah.
The
crazy.
currents, I think, were just it kind of took everybody by surprise.
Yeah, so. Yeah. But again, super favored us to have that much swimming in that race.
Yeah, we were okay with it. So
nice.
hopefully there's an opportunity to sort of bring that race back, but I think just the logistics of having it in close to Boston are difficult. There's a lot of boats going back and forth between there.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that being pretty tough. Well, we've really enjoyed hearing about you two as partner in the team, the Wet Sox. And we really just wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing some cool stories and everything with us.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We really enjoyed the podcast. Looking forward to more episodes.
Great. Thank
Awesome.
you. And
we'll see you at Orcas Island, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully all things goes as planned, and sounds like we might do 3 or 4 races together this year if it ends up happening, but we'll see. So if people want to check you guys out, or the Boston Wet Sox, do you have an Instagram account, or if anyone has questions or anything for you, where would they go for those?
Yes, we only have our own separate Instagram accounts. So yeah, I'm just what is mine? Bronwen.p.d.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, that's it.
Mine's just G Dierksen.
Early adopter, huh?
Yeah, I know.
Well, Dierksen is not a very common
That's true.
name.
That's true.
Yeah.
So we're on Instagram. If that's probably the best place to check us out.
Cool.
Yeah, we're happy to field any questions, because we definitely want more people to get into it and feel comfortable in sport.
Well, we want exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's
our
amazing.
goals are aligned in that regard for sure.
So thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We'll link all this in the show notes so people can find you easily there. And stay safe, stay healthy. Give our best to Gwen.
Yes.
And
you guys
wash your hands.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep living the dream.
Yeah. We'll see you out there.
All right. Well, Thanks again. Thank you for listening to the Low Tide Boyz, a Swimrun podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
You can also sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, drop us an email at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun activities, hobbies, and other bullshit we do.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then run to the finish line. And just keep going until you're done.
Yes. Or
until
run
you
to
cross the finish line.
Or run to the car.
Or run to your car.
Somewhere. Just keep running.
Peace.